On this episode of Lifeguard, the search for an adrenaline rush at Sunset Cliffs leads to an urgent 911 call.
Someone with sounds like a fractured ankle, Sunset Cliffs, and they're on the rocks.
And in Newport Beach,
Tunnel was caved in, so we jumped down and we heard screaming.
Calling party advised a teenager was digging a 6-foot trench in the sand. They're trying to dig him out at this time.
lifeguards race against the clock to find a boy buried alive in the sand.
62's on scene. We have multiple people digging in the sand.
They were digging. It just didn't seem like they were digging deep enough and time was running out.
I remember pretty vividly right when I saw his head and the paleness of his face that I didn't think he was alive.
The lifeguards of Southern California protect over 400 miles of coastline. And nothing impacts their day like the weather.
As lifeguards, a lot of us are amateur meteorologists.
Good weather brings a lot of excitement, a lot of action.
On these beaches, lifeguards are the first responders.
I have a 911 call for distress swimmer.
I like those exciting days where you don't really know what's going to happen.
Dispatch, a person injured on a vessel.
They are there to save you. They are there to lifeguard. Newport Beach is one of the most popular vacation spots in Southern California. Home to the Balboa Peninsula and the legendary surf spot, The Wedge. This typically sunny city is a destination for beachgoers worldwide.
Newport has some unique weather characteristics. It has, of course, the ocean offshore. Behind it, you have Newport Bay and the harbor there. So you get water on both sides of Newport Beach. With a little bit more water like that, it's going to make the air temperatures a little bit cooler.
When Newport exhibits these conditions, there's a tendency for people to stay out of the water. But just because they're out of the water doesn't mean they're out of danger. In the summer of 2011, 17-year-old Matt Mina flew out from Virginia to spend time with his cousins in beautiful Newport Beach.
Well, that day at the beach, the water was too cold, so me and Matt decided to start digging a hole.
For 3 hours, the boys continued to dig. After reaching a depth of 7 feet, they began tunneling.
10 minutes later, I kind of got over it, and he kept digging, and we were just hanging out next to the hole. And we called him out, and hey, Matt, come out, let's play football or something. And we looked down, and the tunnel was caved in, so we jumped down, and we heard screaming.
The tunnel caved in around Matt, and the hole filled. Within seconds, he was trapped in a 10,000-pound sand avalanche.
My brother and my cousin's boyfriend jumped down and started digging while I rushed and sprinted to the lifeguard tower asking for shovels and help.
The Newport lifeguard at Tower 52 sent out the Mayday call, Code 3.
When Matt's cousin told me that he was stuck in the sand, my training kind of took over. So I knew to call it in right away and then just run down and start digging, enlist people around to start helping out and dig until we could get more resources on the scene.
Newport Battalion 6 and responding units. Calling party advised a teenager was digging a 6-foot trench in the sand. They're trying to dig him out at this time.
Captain Brian O'Rourke was on a Newport Beach lifeguard boat when the call came in.
I heard that there's a possible sand collapse, somebody buried in the sand. So I jumped off the boat and swam in. I got right into the hole, and Matt's family member, they were screaming, and they're going right about there. And we just started digging, trying to just get some sand. Hopefully we could find them within seconds.
Lifeguards and the rest of the fire department worked as a team to take control of the operation, while Matt's cousins watched helplessly from the sidelines.
Who he is? Yeah, I know who he is. Do you know, like, his first name, last name?
After all the fire department cleared everyone out, and when they were digging, it just didn't seem like they were digging deep enough and time was running out.
Units from all over the city respond in massive numbers.
62's on scene. We have multiple people digging in the sand.
Trapped without oxygen, the clock begins ticking on Matt Mina. Matt has between 4 and 6 minutes before the risk of serious brain damage.
The day that Matt was buried under the sand, I was what they call the incident commander, or the IC, in charge of the overall operation. So my job is essentially to show up and try and make some organization to the chaos that's already happening.
This time we'll need additional manpower to assist with digging.
Word of the collapse spreads, sending the beach into a panic. And police are called for crowd control, while more search and rescue teams respond to the beach. Lifeguard Alex Skur arrives 12 minutes after the initial call.
When we arrived at the incident, there was quite a few people in a big circle surrounding the event.
Listen up! Get behind the emergency vehicle! Now!
Went and reported to the incident commander, and he told me to go find Captain O'Rourke and start digging.
Removing the sand posed an immense problem to the rescue effort. With every handful they scooped out, another slid back in. They had to dig outward before they continued downward. 15 minutes in, and Matt was still 4 feet underground.
Based on that, I had to start formulating a plan of what we were going to do and how many resources we were going to need to take care of that. I put one of the captains in charge of just the diggers inside of the hole.
I'm gonna ask everybody to take 5 steps back.
And I had another captain in charge of the perimeter.
Rescue workers teamed with bystanders to create concentric circles of diggers around the point last seen. But even with all the manpower and organization, progress was painfully slow.
After the first 20 minutes when the fire department was digging, I couldn't comprehend it, but I thought he was for sure dead.
Hey, you guys gotta jump out to where the sand's wet.
A lot of chaos going on, a lot of people panicking, and then we had more resources come in. We just kept digging and digging, but it was frustrating because every time we made a lot of progress digging the hole, it just kept caving in around us. In the back of your mind, it didn't seem like there was gonna be a good outcome in this situation.
Keeping the sand out of the hole proved to be a massive undertaking. Rescuers were forced to widen the opening by 20 feet across, or risk a chance of a second collapse. This extra step took time, something Matt did not have.
In our business, we have what we call an incident clock, and our dispatch center will tell us when we've been on scene for 15 minutes. So in this case, and that starts triggering more alarms in our head. Everybody knows that the human brain can only sustain about 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen.
It had been 20 minutes since the sand collapsed on Matt. The crowd of spectators continued to grow.
And I was starting to become very concerned that this operation was going on for so long that Matt wasn't alive down there. And then I have to start then taking a look at what we're going to do with all these people that are on the beach, all these rescuers that are in the hole, the news helicopters above us. It was just this humongous operation with hundreds of people watching. And if we pull this teenager out that isn't alive, now there's the psychological trauma of everybody else that happens to be at the beach that day.
25 minutes in, people began preparing for the worst, but lifeguards in the hole continued their frantic digging.
I was exhausted, digging sand that weighs, so heavy digging out, but it was also like an adrenaline that you don't feel every day.
None of us, nobody on that beach was, giving up until we found them.
These firefighters and these lifeguards and even the citizens, I couldn't have pulled them out of that hole with a taser gun. They were in there, and they were going to stay in there.
For over 30 minutes, rescuers worked at a feverish pace before seeing any sign of Matt.
I remember pretty vividly right when I saw his head and the paleness of his face that I didn't think he was alive.
Didn't hear if he was breathing or not, or out of all the screaming and the crowd, my head just went deaf.
Guys, start backing up. Let's go. Back up.
The first time I saw his face, he was just unconscious. And he just sandy, pale.
Easy, guys. Easy. Whoa, 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 whoa. Relax, relax.
That's when I heard him, breathe. More like, he's breathing. And then all of a sudden I heard him groan, and I'm like, wow, he's gonna actually make it. And there was just cheers from hundreds of people on the beach.
Matt Mina had been lying unconscious under 7 feet of sand for nearly 35 minutes before rescue workers unearthed him.
Matt, for all intents and purposes, and I don't want to be overly blunt, but Matt should not have survived that. 7 feet down, all that weight, all that pressure, and lack of oxygen for over 30 minutes, that's unsustainable for human life. For me personally, in 17 years in the fire business, this is definitely one of the most miraculous rescues I've ever come across.
RT-27, you know, victim is out of the hole.
Newport off, copy.
90 miles south of Newport is San Diego.
Lifeguards from San Diego responding 3141 Oceanfront Walk.
This city is home to 70 miles of diverse coastline. From beautiful sandy beaches to picturesque cliffs, San Diego has it all. Just south of Ocean Beach is Sunset Cliffs. Here, there are no traditional lifeguard towers. So veteran lifeguard Sergeant Rick Strobel must make routine patrols of this dangerous but popular surf spot.
We're in an area called Sunset Cliffs. That's a very popular area. A lot of the younger kids like to come down here and jump off into the water. Between the jumping accidents and the surfing rescues, we get so much call activity that we've actually placed a call box right over here. That's a direct line to our dispatch tower. So when we do get the call, we're ready for them. It's a pretty big set coming through.
Sergeant Strobel prepares to move on with his patrol. But then he notices a set of unusually large waves heading toward a small group of picture takers. As the wave sweeps the young girl off her feet, Strobel races to the rescue. Luckily, instead of being swept into the ocean, he finds her soaked, safe, and happy to be alive.
Hey, you guys got to stay up here where it's dry, okay?
Just taking some pictures of some friends screwing around and sitting up. Saw a wave coming, didn't think it was going to be so high, and it just shot right up, knocked me down.
Yeah, so as the tide goes out, that might happen a little bit more.
Don't people jump from here all the time?
Yeah, it's not a good idea. It's not safe. Yeah, it's illegal and it's unsafe. All right, you guys just stay up here where it's dry, okay?
Okay.
Sergeant Strobel's warnings about cliff jumping are serious. It's a highly illegal activity, but with no permanent lifeguard towers at the cliffs, they must rely on posted signs and people's common sense. But when the summer sun is scorching and the water temperatures are cool, common sense becomes an afterthought.
I saw a lot of guys jumping off the cliffs over here. People come here to have fun, but they don't respect the fact that this is a dangerous spot. Guy came down, did a hesitation before he went. He wasn't all with it. Went in a low spot, hit something, came up, and that was it, you know.
Dispatch to 1 Sam, OB, for 911.
Lifeguard dispatch has received an emergency call from Sunset Cliffs.
1 Sam. Someone with sounds like a fractured ankle, Sunset Cliffs, and they're on the rocks. Copy that. We're considered as a cliff response. Q Sam, code 3.
Cliff rescues are complex, and lifeguards never know what they need until they get on scene. They dispatch Jet 1 for a water approach and a specialized cliff rescue vehicle with a long crane arm.
23-year-old male, fractured left ankle. Medics are rendering aid now. Jet 1 at the victim. It's going to be at the arch on the first step, about 5 feet off the water.
The victim has been pulled out of the water, but is still in a precarious position. Lonnie Stevens is the first lifeguard on scene.
When we arrived on scene, the victim was in a fair amount of pain. He had no other injuries. He was down a ledge, just out of the water.
Maybe talk to IC. Let him know we do have a lot of slippery slope right here.
Incident Commander Sergeant David Rains surveys the situation.
I don't think we can get the stretcher up high enough to grab him and pull him on up.
The angle of the cliffs and the slickness of the rocks make a standard extraction impossible. Adding to the concern, the tide is rising. Soon, the ledge they're on will be underwater.
Set up the low angle rescue, so come up head first.
Sergeant Rick Strobel arrives on scene to assist Rains in this complicated extraction.
In the San Diego Lifeguard Service, when there's a cliff rescue, depending on where it is, there is a cliff response. What we want to do is get at least 7 people to a cliff rescue to help with all the different jobs that have to take place. You're going to send the stretcher out head first. So your personnel down there should be lifting it as we're just pulling it. So I need some help there.
22, if they want to bring down the morphine, we could do the morphine from here. It's going to be a fairly long extrication.
The 23-year-old male is in extreme pain. Sergeant Strobel and his team jump into action.
Patient care is our primary concern, and paramedics were able to just stabilize the patient, give him some morphine for the pain, and assist us and package him in the stretcher.
By the way, just to give you a heads up, we got the tide coming up really fast.
As the victim is strapped into the stretcher below, lifeguards on top of the cliff rig up a pulley system and begin planning.
These two guys are going to be at the edge to help lift this thing on up. Everybody from down below is going to give a lift. These guys are here to get the stretcher when it comes up over the edge. Jacob is going to monitor the belay. All of us are going to pull on this line and just get him up over the edge.
We make a lot of coastal cliff rescues here in the city of San Diego. Lifeguards annually make over 40 coastal cliff rescues. Try to get this close to this one lip right here.
With slippery green moss covering the rocks, the lifeguards will have to shift the victim before attempting the extraction.
Hey, next move, just go up to this one lip. Next one, right? We're gonna haul about 2 feet.
1, 2 feet.
Right there.
1, 2, 10.
Lifeguards, firefighters, and paramedics haul the victim up the cliff face with extreme caution. Any aggressive movement could further damage his ankle.
Got him. Nice work, nicely done.
With the victim off the rocks, lifeguards rush him to the waiting ambulance.
People come here to have fun, but they don't, respect the fact that, there's signs everywhere, Stay back, watch out, because it might just be you,
There are signs that are clearly posted in the area, and those signs there are to help people prevent themselves from getting hurt, but people don't pay attention to the signs and they jump anyway. Sometimes it results in injury.
This is Ocean Beach, San Diego. The primary landmark? Ocean Beach Pier. When the weather is good, thousands of people come out to surf and swim in the warm water, keeping the lifeguards incredibly busy. But sometimes saving lives has nothing to do with jumping into the water.
Okay, we had a homeless individual and his friend brought him down to the water to try and kind of basically take a bath. He went in with all his clothes on, and then some people were concerned. People normally don't swim with their clothes on, right?
Right.
So
I'm a recon ranger.
Okay.
I'm sitting here watching.
Okay, I just want to let you know our concern here. If he doesn't have any medical concerns right now, then we're okay with that. But we can't have him swimming right now. He seems like maybe he's had something to drink. I don't know.
He probably has. That's why I'm sitting here watching.
Drinking and swimming is, definitely one of the things that is very dangerous here. I'm concerned for your safety if you get back in the water, okay?
I had to get in the water. I had to.
So can you tell me you're not going to get in the water today?
Yes, sir, I will tell you.
Okay, that's our concern here, okay?
Lifeguard Sergeant Ed Harris arrives on the scene to help.
Didn't smell very good. He said that he wants to get in the water later. He's not getting back in the water today. I don't know.
We can't have you swimming out here when you've been drinking. What kind is it?
It's vodka.
Vodka?
Yeah.
Don't pour that off.
Can't have alcohol on the beach, guys. Okay, do you have any more in your bag? Go ahead and leave the beach.
The one gentleman that was in the water, I don't think he left with any bad feelings towards us. He said, that he appreciated us. The other gentleman had his drink poured out by my supervisor, and I don't think he appreciated that at all.
It's not bust, yep.
Back up if you're not a firefighter or lifeguard.
In the summer of 2011, 17-year-old Matt Mina dug a 7-foot hole in the sand before it collapsed on top of him. Frantically, rescuers dug for an exhausting 35 minutes before reaching it. And to the surprise of everyone, they found Matt alive.
Matt got lucky. They moved his head back and forth and created an air pocket, and that bought him some time. And obviously, if anybody takes anything out of this hole digging situation, just have fun, build sandcastles, enjoy the beach, but just do not dig these things deeper than mid-shins or your kneecaps. This is not just anything that should be taken lightly. I mean, it definitely could kill you, and Matt got lucky that he's alive today.
6 weeks later, Matt returns to Newport with his mother Melissa, his father Manuel, and his sister Megan. Eternally grateful, the family finally gets an opportunity to meet Matt's rescuers face to face.
Hi, I'm Brian O'Rourke. Hey, Matt, how's it going? No shades. Hey.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
Excited to see Matt return to the beach, first responders gather for a chance to meet the thankful family.
I'm happy for Matt and his family. This was a miraculous rescue. The people here in Orange County have very good emergency response systems, and it all came together that day.
From the bottom of my heart, man, thank you very much.
News of Matt's return brings more rescuers back to headquarters. And soon his mother, Melissa, finds herself overcome with gratitude.
Being a parent, it changes you. You realize how precious life is. We're so happy and grateful that we were given this opportunity to be here today, to be able to personally come and thank everybody that helped save him.
When was the first time you realized that you got pulled out of the hole and that happened to you?
Probably when I first signed up, like, saw all these people, and it started to register that I'm alive, but I just got buried.
So we were very fortunate the way everything played out that day.
The adrenaline that you get doing this job, lifeguarding, is something that is a feeling that most people don't get to feel.
Her mother is just digging and moving massive amounts of sand, and those are the people I'd love to just be able to thank too, you know.
Everybody gave their full effort into that and did not stop, and we're not going to quit the whole time. So yeah, it was awesome.
We thank everybody because he's a pretty special kid.
And when I was down there, my life just kind of flashed before me, all the good times, bad times, it's people you care for. It's every single person out there helping to dig. Everybody from fire and rescue, the police, to lifeguards especially. I couldn't thank them more, So I don't think I'd be alive if it wasn't for lifeguards today.
In the intense world of medical emergencies,
1 patient, 3 times stab wounds.
there's nothing more extreme than a code red.
This is a 2-car RTC. That's correct.
It means there's an immediate threat to life.
Got 1 male still trapped in the vehicle.
In the West Midlands, a highly specialist team are on call 24/7, ready to race to these major traumas.
ETA 4 minutes.
By road and air.
03, we are lifted from Cosford.
Responding to the most severe 999 calls.
Open up the Lucas device over there for me.
Day and night.
All right, well done.
From car crashes
Just need to check.
to stabbings.
We're gonna put some oxygen on your pal.
Here, where time is critical, lives will be saved. On roadsides, in back gardens, and inside homes.
It's okay, coming off the chest.
These emergency doctors and paramedics use cutting-edge trauma techniques and surgery normally only seen in operating theatres to save people from almost certain death.
Sorry, mate. I know, mate. I know. We're going to sort you out.
Filmed over 2 months with the critical care team,
Ready, set, slide.
we captured every vital second as these specialist crews work to save lives.
Ready, steady, roll.
Tonight,
ETA 4 minutes.
a man is crushed beneath a quarter-ton engine.
Fire will be there to get the engine off his legs, over.
On the top floor in the top corner here.
A cardiac arrest on a squash court.
Onto your back, John. Sorry, mate.
A DIY disaster.
Isolated abdominal injury with partly eviscerated bowel. Hold on to my hand.
And a passenger is trapped after a serious car crash.
Have you got some morphine to draw up? I think he's going to need it no matter what, isn't he?
The critical care team was formed with one aim: to save more lives. Operating 24/7 and crewed by highly qualified doctors and paramedics, their fleet of vehicles are prepped with life-saving equipment and ready to scramble at a moment's notice.
What day is it? It's Sunday. It's 7 o'clock in the morning.
32-year-old critical care paramedic Tom Waters is about to start a 12-hour shift.
We check all our kit every day, so that nothing gets missed out. I like to just make sure everything's in its special place. It all gets used on a daily basis, so make sure nothing's missing.
After working in the ambulance service for 6 years, Tom underwent 18-month specialised drugs and life-saving skills training to become a critical care paramedic.
An ambulance traditionally would only see a major trauma patient or someone who's suffered a significant car accident or whose heart has stopped beating maybe once or twice a year, where our job is to deal with cardiac arrests, major trauma patients on a daily, regular basis.
Ambulance service, is the patient breathing?
Yes, yes, but the person's on the floor.
Awake?
Yes, but the person has cut their belly.
Have they fallen? They've put themselves with a chainsaw. Are they able to see to me?
No. Oh my God,
okay.
Everything's out.
His intestines?
Yeah.
Has he lost enough blood to fill 2 mugs?
Yes, a lot. Please, just come.
We're coming on blue lights and sirens, so we're going to be there as quickly as we can.
It looks like a 43-year-old male who has sustained an abdominal injury from a chainsaw, and his intestines are out on the floor.
An ambulance is already on scene, but the man's injuries are so severe that they've requested critical care backup. Tom has been dispatched.
It's easy to paint a picture, but you really don't know until you get there.
11 minutes after receiving the call, Tom arrives at the address. His body cam records every detail of the horrific scene.
Hi, you're right. Hello, sir. My name's Tom from the air ambulance. What's your name?
The injured man, 43-year-old forklift driver Rafa, is being given oxygen by the ambulance crew to try and keep him conscious as his body reacts to the shock of the 5-inch wound to his lower abdomen.
Right, so with this, if you just want to cover that with that. Perfect.
I'm just taking a photo of it.
No, that's fine.
Just in case you
want. Right then.
It looks like it's adipose tissue more than anything, doesn't it?
The blade has sliced down through skin and flesh, exposing his intestines.
Oh.
Tom needs to try and keep the wound clean, prevent his intestines coming out, and stop the bleeding.
Hopefully, if we can just hold it around it, it will stick to it a little bit. And then, if I can get you guys to put some tape around that, is that all right?
I'm just going to stick the dressing down, Raphael, okay, just to keep it clean.
Okay, so this gentleman, age, I believe you already know. He's a GCS of 15 at the moment with isolated abdominal injury with partly eviscerated bowel.
With such a deep wound, Tom knows Rafa could have catastrophic internal bleeding. He needs to get him to hospital fast for emergency surgery.
I think my initial plan would be to get some IV access, wound management, and then convey him to the QE.
The danger is that moving him may put too much strain on him and send him into cardiac arrest.
How are you feeling? Sam, can you get some IV access? Is that all right?
Element 03 Alpha's road to start recall 4 PRB and heading east and towards...
The most serious emergencies require a doctor-led trauma response. The Midlands Air Ambulance can fly a hospital doctor and critical care paramedic to 90% of the region within 8 minutes, delivering advanced life-saving care to the roadside and fast transfer back to hospital.
Ambulance service, is the patient breathing?
Yes.
Are they conscious and awake?
Yes. Me and my husband are moving some mechanical equipment around the back of our house and it fell on him and broken his wrist and there's like a big engine sitting on his leg.
Okay, so he's trapped under it at the moment?
Yeah.
What's it, an engine from a car or?
Yeah, a Land Rover.
Okay, sweetheart, we'll be with you as quick as we can.
So 3 got ETA 4 minutes. Have you got any details on the case, please?
Dr. Matt Rowley and critical care paramedic Karen Baker are en route to a code red emergency.
Patient in the back garden who's been working on the Land Rover's engine. It's fallen onto him, trapping his by his legs. Fire will be there in order to get the engine off his legs over.
A man is lying crushed beneath 1/4 ton of cast iron. The range of potential injuries are so severe, the critical care team have been scrambled.
Our point of view would be go do an assessment, look at his airway, breathing, circulation, and see if there's any immediate interventions we need to perform that may be life-threatening to him.
Helimed is above the house within minutes.
Okay, you think I've got, fire service. Just coming down the right-hand side there. So it looks like this field here is going to be about the nearest. There's horses in that, unfortunately. We're just looking if there's anything in that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
okay, cool. We'll go with that.
A paramedic working on a regular ambulance will only see a couple of major trauma incidents a year.
All good on the left there, Cass.
Yeah, all good.
Thank you very much.
But these guys deal with the most critical emergencies every day of the week.
There's a catch there. 03 on the ground.
It's now been 15 minutes since the 999 call came through. Matt and Karen are concerned the longer the man is trapped under the machinery, the more damage is being done.
If they've managed to get it off quite quickly, then we'll be looking at some soft tissue damage and fractures. If it's stayed on his legs, how long it's crushed his legs for, because then you get problems with circulation. Hello.
How are we doing? You all right?
Says you can feel it, obviously it hurts.
Yeah.
Arriving on scene, Matt and Karen are quickly briefed by the fire service and a local ambulance crew before they can take control of the rescue.
He has got a collis fracture on his left wrist as well.
Okay.
So we're just in the process of getting the engine off.
Okay. What's your name, fella?
Dave.
Dave. My name's Matt, one of the doctors off their ambulance. All right.
Scrapyard manager and Land Rover enthusiast Dave Evans was renovating one of his old vehicles when the heaviest part, the engine block, fell off the workbench.
Can we get you back on this gas and air?
Dave tried to stop the fall, but the huge weight was too much, breaking the bones in his wrist.
And it's just toppled over onto him from there, has it? Presumably.
The ambulance crew have splinted Dave's broken wrist and given him gas and air and intravenous morphine to help him deal with the pain.
How's he doing with the morphine?
Done 50.
Although Dave appears calm, Karen is worried about the potential injuries to his leg that they can't see.
Is it from the lower leg?
What I can only see just around the knee, I can't see below.
Has he got a distal sensation?
Karen is worried the engine could be restricting the blood supply down his leg. This could lead to Dave losing his foot. It's essential they get the weight off before it's too late. The critical care team cover an area of 5,000 square miles in the West Midlands with a population of 5.6 million people.
Ambulance service is a patient breathing.
Every day, the ambulance service receives around 4,000 emergency calls. But when the call is critical and there's every chance the patient won't make it, that's when the trauma specialists are needed.
Going to the big job now. See you later.
The #1 call out is to people whose heart has stopped pumping effectively and gone into cardiac arrest.
Coming through a big cardiac arrest in the street.
Yeah, that's all received. We're showing about 7 minutes away.
Every minute the patient's in cardiac arrest, their chance of survival decreased by about 11%. So the quicker someone starts CPR, the more likely it is that the patient will survive neurologically intact.
Obviously, we're hoping when we go to cardiac arrest that we can get an output back. We've got the Lucas device which we can use, and we've also got drugs that we can give, medication, which obviously increases their chances of survival.
service patient breathing?
No. It was someone who's playing on the court next to us. There's staff around him and they're doing CPR.
Right. I know that they've got access to a defib then. I presume that one of the staff members got it today.
Yeah,
they have. Okay. Right, we are coming as quickly as we can, okay?
A 72-year-old collapsing with a sudden cardiac arrest is an immediate code red emergency.
Right.
2 local ambulance crews have already been dispatched to the scene. But as fewer than 1 in 10 people who suffer an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest survive, 28-year-old critical care paramedic Aidan is also en route.
The AED's been used, 1 shot's been delivered.
Excellent, thanks, bud.
A bystander has managed to restart the man's heart with a defibrillator, but it could re-arrest at any moment.
I'll go with Lucas in hand.
The Lucas chest compression system allows Aidan to continue resuscitation mechanically even while on the move. It's a vital bit of life-saving kit for the critical care team.
Looks like it's in a squashed court on the top floor.
Arriving at the sports centre, it's now 20 minutes since the call came through.
Excuse me, upstairs?
Yeah, absolutely. It's up on the top floor in the top corner here.
Thank you.
When a person has suffered a cardiac arrest, time is critical. Every minute the brain is starved of oxygen, there is a greater risk of stroke and long-term brain damage.
Hello. How are you doing, everyone? All right? How are you doing? Hello, how are you doing?
4 paramedics are already treating 72-year-old John.
Went to hit the squash ball, collapsed, fell flat on his face. The gentleman over there gave him mouth-to-mouth chest compression.
Yeah.
He started breathing again.
His condition was so serious, it took staff at the sports club 6 minutes and 3 attempts with a defibrillator to get his heart started again.
Has he got chest pain or anything at the moment, do we know?
He's got chest pain like global all over.
Okay.
Very common.
The paramedics have put John on an oxygen mask and hooked him up to an electrocardiogram to give an accurate reading of how well his heart is functioning after the cardiac arrest.
We'll just sit him onto his bum, stand up on his feet, stretch him behind him. Onto your back, John.
Taking charge of the scene, Aidan needs to get John off the floor, onto a stretcher and into hospital.
Alright, what's happening? Where's that pain?
If he has a second cardiac arrest, it's his best chance of survival.
When you guys got here, he was GTS 50, a bit agitated, but he was conscious and stuff.
No, he was very combative. He couldn't talk.
Okay, let's just shave all this off for a second where we can, and then get the pads on. It's obviously a high chance of re-arresting now.
Although John is conscious, his brain was deprived of oxygen for 6 minutes. It's left him confused.
John, where's that hurting, mate? In your chest? Okay. Does it feel like you've hurt something as you've fallen? You don't know? Okay.
He fell first.
John, are you listening? So, I know that's really painful. We've got to get you up off the floor in order to get you into the ambulance and off to hospital. So bear with us. Let us help you. Just wait a second.
These chest pains are a sign of restricted blood flow to the heart. It's a clear warning that he is in danger of suffering another cardiac arrest.
Match me right. First of all, John, just sit up for us. Not stand, just sit for a second. All right, just wait there. After 3 then, John. 1, 2, 3, push. Just have a seat on there.
Sit down, John.
Right, relax your head down to the right. Down to the right. We'll swing your legs up. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Just square yourself up into the middle for us, John. Okay.
Having got John onto the stretcher, Aidan is able to manage his airway and restart chest compressions if necessary.
So he's not had any medication or anything yet? No. Lovely. I'm just going to give you a bit of a spray in your mouth. Might make you feel a little bit lightheaded, a little bit dizzy. If it does, just let us know. OK? Your tongue up for me. Lovely. And pop this in your mouth and just chew that around for me.
Aidan gives John a nitroglycerine spray to expand his blood vessels and an aspirin pill to thin the blood to increase the flow around his heart. Now he's ready to start the journey to hospital.
Was it yourself who did the CPR?
There's a few people.
Well, you guys absolutely saved this man's life, so you should go home very happy. Well done. Thank you very much. Guys, nice and steady. Just slow it down just a bit.
Leaving his vehicle at the gym, Aidan will travel with John in the ambulance in case he has another cardiac arrest en route.
Right, it's going to be a bit bumpy, okay?
He won't leave his side until he's safely delivered to hospital.
Nice and steady there.
Oh. He's had operation, yeah?
Yes, he will need to.
In Walsall, critical care paramedic Tom is treating 43-year-old Rafa. He needs urgent hospital treatment following a DIY accident with an electric saw that's cut open his abdomen.
Right, we're going to cut this off.
It isn't safe to move Rafa until Tom knows the full extent of his injuries.
Right, just put him forward. I just want to check his back while we're here.
Yeah.
It's very sweaty, isn't it? OK, so no other injuries. Was this done on a chainsaw?
Yes.
Can you find out exactly what's happened?
The gentleman there speaks English.
How are you feeling?
He went on the ladder. He was doing something around this thing.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
It turns out Rafa was fixing the guttering with an electric saw.
This one?
Yeah.
When the ladder slipped, the saw ripped through his abdomen.
Yeah, 6'2", just an update. So heart rate's around 50 at the moment.
Rafa's blood pressure is low, which could be a sign that the blade has damaged some large blood vessels internally or even perforated the bowel.
He's quite clammy and sweaty at the moment. I see no immediate signs of him hemorrhaging, however, I don't know how deep it is.
They have to get him to hospital.
I'm going to get him in the back of the ambulance and convey QE. I'll put some details for as we go. OK then, Rafa, we're going to put our chair here. We're going to get you to move you and take you into the back of the ambulance, OK? My only concern is he's a bit hypotensive, so he might go a bit funny if we stand up. So we'll try and obviously avoid as little movement as possible. Hold on to my hand. OK. Do you feel like you can walk? No. OK, that's great. Are you sure? OK.
Despite Rafa's horrific injuries, Tom has no choice but to move him onto the ambulance.
Yeah.
Keeping the pressure on the wound to stop his intestines spilling out.
I'm just a bit worried he's a bit hypotensive, so we'll just take our time. Well done. OK, up you come. So, at the moment, this gentleman's got a circular saw accident to his stomach, part of his bowel, and a lot of his stomach is out at the moment, so we've dressed it. I'm going to give him some drugs to stop him bleeding and pain relief and take him to the major trauma hospital in Birmingham.
Just going to give you some pain relief, some paracetamol, OK, to help with your pain, Rafa.
How are you feeling? Yeah?
They head to the major trauma centre at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, where Rafa will need immediate surgery to repair the wound and stop any internal bleeding.
Rafa, are you all right holding that?
On the journey, Tom needs to keep his patient under close observation. There's a real danger his low blood pressure could suddenly drop, putting him into cardiac arrest.
Rafa, how are you feeling? All right? Good. Well done. You're doing a great job. We're nearly there.
Arriving at hospital 23 minutes later, Tom can hand over his critically injured but now stable patient to the waiting specialists.
Thank you.
In an average 12 hours, Tom will attend around 8 life-threatening emergencies, testing his techniques, drugs and specialised equipment to the limit in some very challenging environments.
I've obviously seen the worst in people and the best in people, but I've never really had an issue of taking it home. I've got a very small baby and a fiance, and that pretty much fills my life in the evenings, so... There are days where you have jobs which you get flashbacks. You know, at worst, it's always children, isn't it? But fortunately, I seem to manage quite well with that. I feel like I'm relatively thick-skinned.
For Tom, there's no such thing as a quiet shift, and there's never long to wait after the end of one job until he's needed again. An ambulance has been dispatched to an address in Dudley for a code red emergency involving a seriously ill child, and they've requested critical care backup.
5 minutes away, and we don't know too much information, but we think it's a 10-year-old who's not very well.
Sick children can go downhill very fast. A sudden onset of disease can easily overwhelm their body's vital systems, so early diagnosis is paramount.
Assessments of children are generally really hard, and there's always things that can get missed.
He arrives on scene 14 minutes later.
I went in through the side.
The paramedics have already moved the child into the ambulance.
Hey, buddy, you're going to be sick. Where'd you run? All right.
It's every paramedic's worst nightmare. The boy is presenting advanced symptoms of one of the most deadly childhood diseases.
I think that kid's got meningitis.
Let's come off the oxygen just for a minute, guys. We'll just come off the oxygen.
In Wolverhampton, critical care paramedic Aidan is battling to keep 72-year-old John alive and breathing after he had a cardiac arrest while playing a game of squash.
Sorry, mate. Relax. If someone's got some morphine on this truck, if someone can draw some morphine up, if that's okay. And then we'll work on just getting a posterior ECG, see whether we can get him straight to PCI.
John was without oxygen for 6 minutes before gym staff restarted his heart, which left him confused. But 27 minutes later, he is starting to become more lucid.
John, so I think something's happened to your heart. Okay, so we're going to be taking you to hospital shortly. Okay, you've had a collapse whilst playing squash. Yeah. We'll take good care of you. All right. Okay. Have you ever had a heart attack or anything like that before?
I had a murmur once.
A murmur. Okay, you never had surgery on your heart?
No.
No, okay.
It's now 33 minutes since John collapsed.
Right, John, we're just taking a little scan of your heart. Okay. We need you to stay really still for a second. Okay, nice and still for us.
Aidan needs to run a second ECG to try and find the cause of John's cardiac arrest.
Just 2 seconds.
No, that's all.
Is that a good trace? It's all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, we'll head off in just a second. If it's OK, just have someone can drive my vehicle. I can do with somebody else in the back, though, just in case he has another arrest. Yeah, just nice and steady, bud. That'd be great. And there's just going to be a little scratch on your hand, OK?
En route to hospital, John is given 2.5 milligrams of morphine, a fast-acting painkiller, to help make his journey more bearable.
So, John, we're going to New Cross Hospital at the moment. Obviously, we think there might be something a little bit wrong with your heart at the moment, okay, which has caused you to have this collapse. Okay. So when we get to the hospital, there's going to be quite a few people there who are going to want to speak to you and ask you some questions. Okay. We'll take good care of you. Okay. You say you're winning the game of squash. Are you sure? Do you normally win against this chap? It looked like an elderly gentleman.
So he ain't playing with you again?
No, I've been playing
40 years?
Yeah.
Crikey. You should be all right by now, then.
I'm struggling to remember what that is.
You've had a period where you've lost consciousness. Yeah. So that would be expected.
Right.
Yeah.
6 minutes later, they arrive at New Cross Hospital, where Aidan delivers his patient safely into the care of the waiting cardiac specialists. For John, it's been a lucky escape.
Obviously had a cardiac arrest, a really serious situation. We're probably in the best situation that we could be now, considering he's had this cardiac arrest. So he's now relatively stable, his heart's beating okay, he's breathing. So they're going to do a few more tests to see exactly what it is which has gone wrong with his heart and treat him appropriately from there. So really happy, really good outcome, and just emphasising the importance of bystander CPR and community access defibrillators, which undoubtedly saved this gentleman's life. So yeah, really good.
Ready?
12 miles away in Stourbridge, Dr. Matt Rowley and critical care paramedic Karen Baker are on scene with 40-year-old Dave, whose leg has been trapped under a 1/4 ton of Land Rover engine for the past 35 minutes. Every second counts, because without proper circulation, there's a real risk that the leg won't recover and it will have to be amputated.
The leg can just go ischemic. You cut off the oxygen supply, and then that builds up toxins. And then, of course, when it's released, those toxins can then go into the main circulation.
The fire brigade are trying to free Dave using hydraulic lifting equipment, but without a clear view of his trapped leg, it's hard to get the machinery into the correct position without risking even more traumatic injuries.
Right, that's it. Really slow, deep breaths now.
He's had 15 milligrams of morphine and continues to take gas and air to deal with the intense pain.
Right, let me hold. Good man, that's it. And again. Deep breaths.
With the lift now in position, the firefighters and medics work together.
Just tapping me, Paul. My leg's loose now. Just refresh.
Good. Deep breaths, Chris. What's supposed to do this, mate? Go on.
Right, sorry.
Deep breaths, I say, well done.
Oh! Right, hang on.
Hold down, Chris. Just hold it down.
You're going to help yourself, sir, would you, right? Go on, forward. Okay. Go on, forward, reduce.
Smash it.
Go on. Go on.
Well done.
There we go.
With Dave's leg finally free, Matt and Karen can assess how badly it's been damaged.
Good man, let's have a little look at it.
How's your pain now that you've come out?
Just a bit, because my foot's been crushed, but I don't feel like it's broke. My wrist is definitely broke.
Yeah. Are you tolerating the pain at the moment?
Yeah.
That's a lot better.
My leg feels
All
fine.
Good.
Very good.
Toes a bit blue now.
Give your toes a wiggle. Good man. Well done.
Miraculously, despite being trapped under a quarter of a ton of cast iron, Dave appears to have escaped with just some painful bruising.
Shall we get your chair, do you think? Yeah. We'll pop him in a chair and go over the back.
She gets to shout at you now you're all right.
You'll just have to do it in the house next time, won't you, where it's dry? Be all right. He's been very lucky. It's just sort of pinned his leg to the floor. He's got no serious injuries. People can come off much worse if it had fallen on his femur, his pelvis, his abdomen, his chest. You know, his injuries could have been far more significant.
Dave is being taken to hospital by the ambulance crew, leaving Matt and Karen clear to respond to the next emergency. Over in Dudley, critical care paramedic Tom has just arrived on scene, where a young boy is critically ill.
You gonna be sick? Can we have you around? All right.
He is displaying symptoms of meningitis septicemia, a rare bacterial infection that kills 10% of children who catch it.
Oh, bless him. And sorry, he's 10 years old, isn't he?
Yeah, 10.
Okay.
10-year-old Harry was sent home from school yesterday with what seemed like a vomiting bug. Now a rash has started to spread across his body.
See you in a bit, Harry. Your mum's coming forward with you, okay?
A dangerous sign the disease is advancing fast.
I am 1.2 grams, dissolved in 4 mils, 1.2 grams, 4 mils.
Tom knows if his diagnosis is correct, he doesn't have long to get the infection under control before it enters Harry's bloodstream, where he won't be able to halt it.
Well done, Harry. Very brave.
We're going to give him an injection to his arm as well. He's going to have 2 injections, if that's all right.
Tom will need to administer the potentially life-saving antibiotic there and then before they get to hospital.
Well done, buddy.
With a son's life hanging in the balance, Harry's mother Laura can only stand by and watch.
Okay, bud. That's the first one. Go ahead.
Hi, Tom Choice Bobby. Just wondered if you had any clinical update whether you required it.
Yes, it's got quite a significant rash along his body. Reduced ECS. Given Ben pen now.
What's the actual copy of the speech of it?
So that's
600.
600.
Yeah, so he's having 1.2.
Right, then we'll get ready to go. Are you ready, mate?
Tom knows it's critical they get Harry to hospital as quickly as possible, where he has the best chance of recovery.
Do you want me? How about if I do the pre-alert for you, and then you could get going then, couldn't you?
Fine,
There you go. And I'll say 7 minutes to Russell's Hall.
Immediately, the second dose of antibiotics is in, the crew prepares to leave, while Tom calls ahead to pre-alert the hospital staff.
Hello there, it's Tom, one of the critical care paramedics. Can I pass you an alert, please? A 10-year-old boy. He's had a 2-day history of being generally unwell, nausea, vomiting, not his normal self, very pale, and got a clear blotched rash along his body. They're going to be 7 minutes to yourselves. Obviously, we've got a very high suspicion that he's got meningitis.
For all ambulance crew, dealing with a critically ill child is the most stressful situation they have to face. Thanks to Tom's training and experience, Harry has the best chance of recovery.
What that child needs is a good hospital quickly. The fact that he's got a very typical septicemic rash over his body with the history of him being unwell and deteriorating throughout the day and looking very poorly, those factors mean he needs antibiotics and he needs a hospital very quickly, and that's all we really did. It's a very rare circumstance you go to a child presenting with those symptoms. What I was very conscious of was not delaying on scene, so that's why I passed the details and let the crew, deliver that care ongoing. They're doing a great job. So, I just might pop and see how they go on.
The critical care team in the West Midlands operates 24/7, 365 days a year. Dr. Katie White and critical care paramedic Ian Locke are on standby, waiting for the next emergency as the all-night trauma response unit.
I think you get used to it.
You do get used to it. I think it gets harder as you get a bit older, I think.
Lockie would know better than me.
In the early hours of the morning, a call comes through to ambulance control. A car has been involved in a high-speed collision. A man is trapped inside with life-threatening injuries. Critical care backup is required.
We've been called to a road traffic collision. We've been asked to attend by a crew in attendance to a patient who has crashed their car into a concrete wall.
From spinal paralysis to life-threatening internal bleeding, the impact of high-speed collisions on the human body can be devastating.
They are just pulling down the Crescent Road towards the scene now.
Dr. Katie and Ian know they're going to have to get there fast if they're going to save a life.
5098 all received.
Eyewitnesses report the car was seen travelling at a high speed down the dual carriageway when it hit the roundabout.
We haven't got many reports of exactly what the injuries are yet, but if the crew are requesting us, then it's likely that they found something that they've got concerns about.
21 minutes after receiving the call, they are at the scene. The police have had to close the road, and firefighters are hard at work trying to free the injured passenger. Dr. Katie is a consultant anaesthetist. She spends half her time in a hospital and half on the road, responding to life-threatening emergencies.
This vehicle has been seen driving at really high speed down here and has basically just gone head first straight into this entire concrete structure.
To get her up to speed on what's happened, Katie is briefed by the paramedic operations manager who is managing the scene.
The driver is out walking around absolutely fine. The front seat passenger, when the crew rocked up, had quite a substantial laceration and head injury. Okay. Still trying to assess for other injuries, just trying to get the pain under control. Okay. It's so distracting for him at the minute. They're just going for a roof removal and to bring him out that way.
Fantastic.
With the injured man still trapped inside the badly wrecked car, a member of the fire brigade is using the jaws of life, a hydraulic saw, to cut the roof away, while another protects him with a blanket as the blade passes inches from his head.
Head injury. Drowned now.
The man is conscious, but he was thrown around the car when it smashed into the concrete wall and may well have sustained serious internal injuries.
So I believe this gentleman has come from down this road, which is quite a fast dual carriageway hit this concrete bollard. He's actually moved the concrete bollard, shunted it backwards, and interestingly, what we've just seen is that he's actually managed to bend the metal railing behind, and there's a significant drop the other side, so I think it's quite lucky that that concrete bollard's there.
Having examined the crash site for further clues as to how sick her patient might be, Katie wants to assess the driver who managed to walk free of the crash.
I've obviously seen the crash he's been involved in. He's all right. They're just going to get him out.
Get near him?
Shall we get you somewhere where I can have a look at you?
Yeah, if not mind.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Come on, let's go. Let's go down towards the ambulance, and I'll just find somewhere to see you.
Satisfied the driver is fine, Katie heads back to the crash site, where with the roof now off the car, Ian is finally able to examine the passenger. 22-year-old restaurant manager Sahil has been fitted with a cervical collar to protect him from aggravating any possible spinal injury. He's also complaining of severe pain in his left arm.
Do you want to take one side and I'll take the other? Get undressed.
Sahil's legs are unharmed, so it'll be less painful on his other injuries if he can stand on his own feet and be helped out of the wreckage.
So what we're going to get you to do is to stand up, all right? Turn very gently. We'll support you as you're doing it, and put your bottom kind of in the middle of the stretcher, okay? And then what we'll do is we'll get you to lie down, okay? So you keep your neck nice and still. Where's it hurting? On your arm? Okay, so not touch that arm. Okay, you support that arm and then come up towards me, okay? It's just too sore. Okay, all right. Do you think if somebody was behind you helping you just get up and out of the seat, that might help? Okay. All right. If it's too much, we'll get some more pain relief for you, okay? Okay. Do you want me to support your arm? You can't.
If it's a no-go, don't worry, mate. No? Okay.
Shall we
go back to plan B then? We'll go in the back.
Yeah.
Okay, Rick, longboarding down the back.
Sahil's arm is too painful for him to be helped to stand, so Katie and Ian will have to resort to plan B.
Have you got some morphine to draw up? Has he had any? Or has your crewmate drawn any? I think so. I think he's going to need it no matter what, isn't he?
With Ian in charge, the fire brigade start to slide a spinal board behind Sahil before carefully levering him out. Once he's flat, he can be lifted onto the stretcher.
We're just going to take him in the warm. Thank you. Lovely. There you go. No worries. How are you doing? All right? How old are you? 22. 22, okay. My name's Katie. I'm one of the doctors. All right. What's hurting at the moment? Sorry?
Just this arm.
So I think it's that arm.
Yeah.
So the options are, do you want to hold on to that?
Yeah.
I'm just going to cut your clothes, lovely. So we'll get some pain relief in.
Yeah.
Shall we splint it?
Free from the wreckage, Katie urgently needs to examine Sahil. Being thrown around the car, he could have broken a rib and punctured a lung or shattered a bone in his pelvis.
Take a couple of nice deep breaths.
From us, it was nice and
And that feels all right. Okay, lovely. Injuries top to toe. He's got a head injury, no obvious chest, abdo or pelvis injuries. He's got an obviously fractured left humerus with no neurovascular compromise.
Sahil is lucky. Despite the seriousness of the crash, he's escaped with a broken arm and a cut to the head.
He's had some IV morphine, an IV paracetamol and a splint to his left arm. Crew ETA to Sandwell will be 10:10 minutes. Received?
Roger, Katie, yeah, that's all copied. Thanks so much. I'll get that past you now.
Thank you.
Katie and Ian leave Sahil with the paramedic crew, who'll transport him to hospital while they prepare for the next Trauma Code Red.
Moves that concrete barrier, you'd think. Lucky. That patient needs to go to a hospital department where he's going to get a CT scan to have a look to just make sure that there aren't any other injuries that we can't see. We didn't feel he needed to go to the major trauma centre or that he needed us to go with him, because I don't think as a critical care team we were going to add anything more to his care en route. He has had some pain relief. We've splintered his arm, and now he just needs to go and have that thorough check over, and then he's clearly going to need surgery on that arm.
On this edition of Lifeguard.
I'm receiving a 911 call, water-related emergency.
The first thought was, oh my God, somebody's drowning.
Get this girl, get me out of here, get us back to the shore.
She was unconscious.
I was just dying to grab that board and go. Get me on scene, fast.
Plus, a death-defying fall from 100 feet up.
He went straight into the turbulent air, and his glider started to shudder. He went straight up, and it went down and out of sight.
The Lifeguards of Southern California protect over 400 miles of coastline.
It's just really us versus nature.
And nothing impacts their day like the weather.
As lifeguards, the weather dictates the type of day that you're going to have.
Shark sighting, clear the water.
I need to ski beach dock and other units.
On these beaches, lifeguards are the first responders.
1, 2, I got 3. When you get this many people coming to the beach, things are going to happen.
Hey, you all right, buddy? You there?
They are there to save you.
He told me to grab the buoy. He was literally right there.
They are there to lifeguard. At the northern end of San Diego rests a small strip of sand known as Torrey Pines State Beach. Easily accessed by Coastal Route 1, this area is a popular spot for the local inlanders to escape the heat. Lifeguard supervisor Ed Vidraska has been working this beach for over 10 years.
We always monitor the weather because our visitation is highly predicated on the weather.
While the weather in Torrey Pines is often predictable, its dangerous rip currents are not.
When the tide changes, we get rip currents. And on the dropping tide, the rip currents have a little bit more speed to them, a little bit more oomph, a little bit more power. When that happens, that creates a lot more of our rescues. We probably make about 90% of our rescues when the rip currents are happening, and we will certainly have some today. The water temperature's been very warm the last few days, so the public knows that, and the word kind of gets out, and we have a lot of people here. The tide is going to be dropping for the next several hours, and as it does that, it's going to create more rips for it.
Rip currents are created when large volumes of water rush across the uneven sand beds, creating channels of strong, fast-moving currents out to sea. These so-called flash rips often form in a matter of seconds and can swiftly drag swimmers away from the beach. This is Tower 2 at Torrey Pines State Beach. On the tower today is lifeguard Bryant Davies.
Tower 2, Torrey Pines, is a tower that has a lot of action. There's a lot of things that can happen. There's rip currents that pop up, so that kind of rescue is fairly common.
All our guards know very well about the Tower 2 rip. That's why we put a veteran lifeguard in this tower.
Today we have not big surf, but medium, so the rip currents are pulling.
Lifeguard Davies is scanning the waters off Tower 2 when he sees a young boy in trouble.
When I noticed the kid struggling on his way back in, I realized it was something I had to respond as quickly as possible to.
The victim is a 10-year-old boy who has been pulled out by the Tower 2 rip. He's a good swimmer, but can't escape the current pulling him out to sea.
Thought he could touch, but when I got out there, he realized he was a lot deeper than he actually was. He told me that he needed some assistance getting back in.
The boy has rolled onto his back and desperately tries to stay afloat. Lifeguard Davies can sense his exhaustion.
So I wrapped my buoy around him and pulled him in.
This was the fourth person that Bryant has pulled out of the rip this morning. Later that day, lifeguard and peace officer Micah Moore checks in with Tower 2.
Have you been pretty busy down here?
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy lately.
Moore is a 4-year veteran of the state park lifeguard system.
Of all the jobs I've had, this one, just helping people in the manner we do, is by far the most rewarding thing that I've done.
Micah knows Tower 2 all too well. On March 20th, 2010, Moore and lifeguard Catherine Graham closed their tower at 6 p.m. They are now a mile away back at headquarters. The beach is now unguarded, but the rip current in front of Tower 2 is working overtime.
I'm in Torrey Pines State Reserve. There's a guy right here calling for help because his girlfriend is looking at the water. Okay, hold on the line, please. Hold on the line.
It's about a mile away to the shop up at the top of the hill. Catherine was washing down the Jeep. I changed out of my reds and put on my clothes, and we hear a call come in.
Lifeguard dispatch 31 Sam, receiving a 911 call. Water-related emergency, Torrey Pines.
I need my fins. There's a buoy in the car. Jumped in the car, changing out of my clothes, putting my red trunks back on.
2 young swimmers, Jessica and Troy Lee, have been sucked 50 yards offshore. This amateur video shows Jessica struggling in the current.
There's a second person out there that no one can see. The other guy went under. Yes. Okay.
The calls we were getting from our dispatch that were 911 relays were that there were 2 victims, a male and a female. A male had gone out after the female. I expected to see 2 people out in front of Tower 2. That's where they were reporting it. By the time we get down to the hill, we could see someone out in the water. The sun was in our eyes. There was a lot of glare. So we could just see 2 dark objects in the middle of the rip. It wasn't until we got closer that we noticed that one of those was not a body, it was actually a bodyboard.
Catherine continues to scan the water for the second victim, while Micah grabs his fins and sprints after Jessica. On the shore, Catherine radios for immediate backup. San Diego Dispatch is quick to respond.
Dispatch 31 Sam, swimmers in distress, Torrey Pines, outside Tower 2.
The first thought that came over my mind was, oh my God, somebody's drowning. We knew we had to act fast.
Get one heading that way.
I knew it was going to be quite some distance. I remember looking down at the speedometer at one point, and the speed was faster than I've ever seen it.
From Black's Beach, San Diego lifeguards Eric Kerr and Lance Mendoza initiate a Code 3 response.
And so when the call came through, we also responded. We're about 5.5 miles away. You're thinking, just get me on scene fast.
Micah paddles through 53-degree water with 3-foot waves crashing all around him.
I had a general idea of where she was. She was out towards the end of the rip. But the problem in the rip current, there's times where you're not able to see what's ahead of you. So a lot of that I was trying to swim with my head up as much as I can. And every time, I was kind of at the crest of a wave, I'm looking to see if I could see where she was. I was able to keep an eye on the boogie board for most of it. I only remember seeing her one last time before I got to the boogie board. I don't remember seeing her again.
Just before Micah reaches her, Jessica succumbs to the elements and sinks from view.
I remember thinking, this is my last chance, I've got to find her. And a wave broke. Once that wave broke and I went under, I just determined, all right, I'm gonna be underwater till I find her.
In a desperate maneuver, Micah dives toward the bottom.
She's underwater in this direction somewhere. And so I just kind of had my eyes open. To me, it felt like a long time that I was under the water. I noticed a body and it was just going down, 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 down. I grabbed a hold of her under her armpits and then just kicked for the surface, popped up, and I was just trying to keep her airway open, signaled for help.
70 yards offshore, Micah treads water in the cold, pounding surf. Without a free arm to swim, the rip current pulls the two of them farther out to sea.
I was just praying to God, you know, get this girl, get me out of here, get us back to the shore.
Lifeguard Catherine Graham is scanning the water for the other victim as San Diego lifeguards Eric Kerr and Lance Mendoza pull up to the scene.
I was driving, so I just looked for the closest spot to where people were waving. I pulled in and just put the brakes on as fast as I can. Sergeant Kerr jumped off, grabbed the surfboard, and scurried down the rocks like a madman.
With secondary lifeguards now on scene, Catherine sprints into the water.
Catherine knew once she had all the resources in place that she could come and assist me.
Okay, I'm seeing a lifeguard going in there in the water right now.
Okay, good.
The ranger's about to go in the water too.
Great. And Francisco, we will have all kinds of resources there shortly, so you're helping quite a bit. Stay on the line.
Okay.
When I was paddling up to the victim, going as fast as I could, as I got closer, I could tell he had one of the victims on the surface.
I knew that at some point Catherine was gonna get to me, but as soon as Eric paddled up on that board, I just remember thinking, this is, okay, awesome, we gotta get this girl on this board.
I could tell that she was certainly unconscious, and I could see her airway was filled with vomit, seawater. Just gave her one strong ventilation, turned her on her side. All that air came back out and blew vomit, seawater out.
The victim is barely alive. With time running out, Eric Kerr paddles her toward the shoreline.
As I got about halfway to the beach, our jet ski, which was also responding, came on scene.
She was unconscious. She was lifeless. We knew that we had seconds to get her breathing again, get her to onto the beach to give her a heartbeat again.
I just told Catherine, get her into shore as fast as you can. I'll stay out here and keep looking for this second person that I was told was out here.
With the drowned girl now on the beach, medics go to work trying to resuscitate her.
We got to the beach, and she was just a limp, unconscious person at the time.
As medics prepare to transport Jessica Ung, lifeguards head back out in search of Troy Lee.
We knew we had to get back in the water, that we needed to find him immediately.
Micah Moore is still frantically searching the 53-degree water.
Francisco, yeah, the last place that you saw the woman, I want you to etch that in your mind, and I want you to try to remember exactly the last place you saw her. You've already helped us save one person. Now we want to try to help her.
Surcom 1258.
1258, Surcom.
I'll be there in just a minute.
I was off duty that day, and I was called in late in the afternoon. I got a call from my supervisor telling me that there was a drowning that had just occurred. I got into my Jeep and I came down the hill. It was a very complicated situation when I arrived on scene because we had about 5 or 6 different witnesses, each one with a different story. So when I arrived on scene, I became the incident commander. I found 5 or 6 different witnesses, and I immediately tried to interview those people to try to get as much information as I could.
Lifeguard and peace officer Ed Vadroska determines the point last seen and initiates a full-scale sweep of the water.
We started a full-fledged Codex emergency where we try to saturate the water with as many divers as we possibly can to try to find the other victim.
As the search for Troy Lee continues, Jessica arrives at a local hospital. There she slips into a coma, and doctors do not expect her to survive the night. It's been over an hour since the 911 call, and still no sign of Troy Lee.
The sun had set, and with the waves and currents and the lack of light, operationally there wasn't much more that could be done.
Rescue operations have come to an end. The next morning, Vadroska leads the recovery efforts.
We put 60 divers in the water. In the next 2 days, covered an expansive area here, all the way down to the bluff edge down there, probably 3/4 of a mile of ocean, and we were unable to locate his body.
3 days after that tragic night, lifeguards receive an update on Jessica's condition. Miraculously, she defied all odds and came out of her coma. La Jolla Shores is a popular 1-mile stretch of San Diego that spans from La Jolla Cove all the way to the end of Black's Beach. At the top of Black's Beach is the Torrey Pines Glider Port, one of the most popular destinations in the world for paragliding.
The gliders have been around for some 30 years now, and within the last 5 to 10 years, the advances have just made an amazing, amazing aircraft.
Paraglider pilots come here for one reason: the weather. Here, the steady onshore winds hit the nearly vertical cliffs. This creates an updraft of wind that keeps the paragliders in the air for hours at a time. But whenever people attempt to fly, there is danger. In May 2012, a 52-year-old woman was flying above Torrey Pines when she lost control of her paraglider. Lifeguards responded quickly, but it was too late. She became the third person to lose her life here in the last 20 years. No stranger to this type of emergency, 13-year veteran Sergeant Mike Cranston is on patrol when he hears a similar call. Longtime paraglider Bob Hammond witnessed the crash firsthand.
As soon as I saw him, I said to myself, what is he doing? He was launching from that flag right there, which is exactly where you don't want to be. The front of the glider folded like that, and he just kind of went down and out of sight. When I saw him go down, I figured it was pretty serious.
Sergeant Cranston arrives on scene and faces several challenges: finding the victim, determining his injuries, and then extricating him.
Dispatch, I'm just pulling into the glider port and we'll initiate glider port command.
The victim has fallen in an inaccessible section of the cliff. Ground and water units are deployed to see if they can spot his location.
We can't do verbal communications as easy as we want because the wind is quite noisy this high up on the cliffs.
So we actually launched the ski and we had the ski go down the beach to see if they could see anything.
A visual on him now. He's behind that ridge. He's got a blue helmet. He may be stuck or injured.
Although they found the victim, getting to him is no easy task.
He's some distance away from our rescuer down there who can see him. So we're going to put one of our guys over the edge on rope to go down and make contact.
Lifeguards begin rigging the main line while the rescuer loads an emergency trauma pack in case the paraglider needs immediate medical attention. Lifeguard Rob Eichelberger will be the rescuer lowered down the steep cliff's edge.
The cliffs at Black's Beach are sandstone, and they're constantly crumbling. We've had a couple of landslides in the last couple of years, so it's always something that's in the back of your head as a rescuer going over.
Lifeguard Eichelberger has descended over 200 feet. Lifeguards on the beach guide him to the victim.
Be right below you. Dispatch update, rescuers at the victim. Confirmation, non-injury. He's stuck where he is, and he is unable to go any further.
Because it's late in the day, we're very aware of the light that we're losing and the possibility that this could go into darkness.
Paul slowly. He's got some vertical, so nice and slow.
He's about 10 feet to the vertical.
Falling slowly.
The challenges of getting the victim back up the cliff are making sure the victim has what we call 2 points of attachment, one in the safety line and one in the main line, and then just kind of guiding them up the cliff.
You doing all right, Ed?
Yeah.
Just stand by when we're sitting on the waist port.
Tethered to the guards, the victim ascends the cliff face, carefully guided along the way. Anxious to get to level ground, he's not out of danger just yet.
Slowly.
Luckily, in this case, the person wasn't injured. An injury response on the side of a cliff is a lot more complicated. It involves a helicopter, us going over the edge with backboards and stretchers. We could tell he was walking, we just couldn't tell if there was any injuries we didn't know about.
Stop. Release slowly.
I don't want to say this was an easy cliff rescue because none of them are easy and they all have a high element of danger and risk. However, this one went about as straightforward as it could have gone. This is kind of what we train for.
4 feet.
Patients up top.
Yeah. I'm glad you're okay.
No, I'm fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Be safe.
No problem.
I fly a little bit, all of a sudden it starts spinning. And I said, okay, that's it. I lose all control. Lifeguard with the help whenever this happens. If they're not there, maybe I climb and just sleep and I fall. I don't know.
It's been 2 years since Jessica Ung nearly drowned at Torrey Pines State Beach.
Okay, I'm seeing the lifeguard going in there in the water right now. The engine is about to go in the water too.
Today, she returns to Torrey Pines to meet with Ed Vadraska, the incident commander of that fateful rescue.
Have you gone into the ocean since the event?
I came a couple of times right after I got out of the hospital. Just kind of put my toes in the water. That's about it. I'm still a little afraid to go out there.
Right about here is actually where the whole event happened. Right now, the ocean is a lot safer than the day that you were here. And there was a big trough right on the inside here. And you actually got into that trough. And it was just a really bad place to swim, unfortunately. And you got in that rip current and then you started getting pulled out. You don't remember the lifeguard getting to you?
No. I remember it was a really warm day. It's really sunny, a really beautiful day. I went to the beach with my friend Troy. We had one boogie board. I had the first turn. I went out there. When the wave came, I was barely hanging on and it just ripped out of my hands. After struggling, I knew it was impossible for me to get the boogie board, so I just tried to stay up until someone could come get me.
The lifeguards were gone for the day, but her friend Troy Lee recognized the danger.
He saw that I was in trouble, so he was waving his arms, screaming for help.
Witness statements report that Troy Lee entered the water in an effort to save Jessica, but was swiftly pulled out by the rip current. He never reached his friend.
I couldn't get my whole head or my shoulders out of the water anymore. It was just my face. So the last thing I remember seeing was looking up to the sky, and that was all that I could see. I felt that I was going to die.
Thanks to an incredible collaborative effort between California State Beach lifeguards and San Diego lifeguards, Jessica was pulled from the water and brought to shore. She spent 3 days in a coma and miraculously survived.
The nurse and the doctor tell me then she maybe never come back from the coma. And that was terrible to see your daughter lay down there and almost shut me down.
It was a bittersweet rescue. 18-year-old Troy Lee lost his life trying to save Jessica. Several days were spent searching for him, but his body was never recovered.
I woke up in the hospital, and the first thing I thought about was him. I wanted him to know that I was okay. And I had no idea that he went in the water. I thought he was completely fine because the last thing I saw, he was on the shore.
Jessica has no memory of her drowning. Lifeguard Ed Vadraska was able to arrange a private meeting so she could thank her rescuers.
So grateful and thankful for Ed, Micah, and their whole entire crew. They're heroes.